Hello, 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 and welcome to this week's RHAPup of season 17, episode 13 of RuPaul's Drag Race here on RHAP We Know Reality TV. I'm one of your hosts, Beth Dixon, and we are excited to break down what seemed to be, in my opinion, such a wonderful episode of family love and acceptance, which is important for queer representation in 2025, I believe. But I'm not here to break it down alone. I'm also here with Aman Adwin, as per usual, to break down all of the information of what we saw last night, or not last night, a couple nights ago. We're recording this on Sunday. I don't know what I'm doing. I just woke up, but we're here to talk also with Aman. Aman, how are you doing?
I am great. Hey, Beth. Hey, everyone else out there. Happy Sunday if you're viewing it on Sunday, or happy Monday, or whatever day of the week it is that you're viewing this on. Yes, it was a lovely episode. It was so funny. I felt like there was both Drag Race and Survivor were in synchronicity this week, because we got like the preview of the family and the tears last week for Survivor, or for Drag Race, and then we also got Jeff crying in the preview for this past week's episode. So I was like, "What is going? Why is everybody crying? What is going on?"
But yeah, it was new moon.
Yeah, honestly. But yeah, it was a good episode. You know, it's always fun to see family come into their children's space and really just embrace what they have going on. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk about everything.
Yeah, this was such a great episode. I'm sad that Liana is unfortunately not feeling the best this week, but I'm sure that if you have questions for her, she'll probably be more than happy to answer a couple of them either next week or even in the comments. So make sure that you're checking out our YouTube videos, leaving those comments and reviews on all of our podcast platforms, and let's break it down. Now, Aman, as you mentioned, this is kind of not a new thing. We did see this in All Stars too, but this is definitely new for a regular season of All Stars to bring family members, and not just family members. This is the first time everybody had a parent on the program.
Yeah.
And I think that is what is so fascinating about this is we're seeing people who we have actually heard maybe a little bit about in passing in previous episodes from some of these queens. You know, we've heard about Lexi getting kicked out of her house, and now here's the mother who, you know, she has been mending this relationship with. How powerful is that in 2025? Right?
Yeah, I really did appreciate that, because yeah, you're right. This is RuPaul's Drag Race, you know the story behind a lot of the people that have appeared on it. You know, they don't have the best family life. A lot of them were disowned, kicked out, or they're just generally misunderstood.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see a counter narrative to that, where yes, there is still a bit of a rift sometimes when it comes between the parents and their children, but all of them still, at the end of the day, they all showed up, and they're all from different walks of life. We've got fathers, we've got mothers. And it's with varying degrees of like what it means to be feminine, what it means to be masculine. And yeah, I feel like I agree with the queens that we got to really see why some of these queens are the way that they are, like where it all comes from.
They are such mini versions of the
They
parents.
really are. It's a reminder that a lot of us, even if we hate to admit it, in some way, form, or fashion, you are just a copy of your mom and your dad. Okay, like it shows up somewhere. It's in your personality, it's in your practices, it's in your mannerisms, it's in how you can view the world. It pops up. It's impossible. You have half and half of your DNA from them, so it's going to happen. And I like seeing that. I like seeing, you know, it gives it context. It makes these queens, you know, more real, because you know, you see where they come from instead of just hearing about it in a confessional. You see, you know, where they came from. So it was a lot of fun and very eye-opening for sure.
And I think maybe the way to do this, Aman, is to kind of talk maybe about each and every pairing of child and parent with their looks and the storyline that we get from each of them as we look at the slideshow. But do you have any overall thoughts about the episode before we get into this?
And at the risk of like sort of jumping too far ahead,
oh, you're fine.
I was not that surprised that it was a double Shantae or like
same.
Like I kind of had an inkling, just in the way that like RuPaul came out into the workroom and was already tearing up, and I just felt like, yeah, it just feels like one of those times where he's going to be like, no one's going home. There's too much love in the air, which I think is the appropriate thing to do. I don't think you bring these parents out
Right.
especially when some of them, you know, probably might not want to be there in the first place, not because they don't want to support their kids, but because, you know, maybe they have something else going on, or maybe they're
Yeah.
maybe, you know, just there's a lot, people have lives, right? So I don't
Yeah.
think you bring all those parents out to send one of their kids home. I just don't think that that's nice. So
I
I
mean, clearly they don't want the Emmy back from the Traitors this year. So apparently we're not. No, I'm just kidding. Could you imagine if I was actually mad about that?
they seem butthurt about it, honey. I'm like, y'all
Oh,
done won like 15,000 times. Like, it's okay. Like, give Alan Cumming his flowers,
I
okay?
know it's totally it is so funny. But no, I agree with you, and I definitely think there's a part of me that wonders if the reason why we haven't seen this for so long is it had this been a conversation that people had, like, I mean, Alyssa getting eliminated by another person, not RuPaul, on an All-Star season, the anniversary of her mother's death of only a couple of years, with her sister, with whom she had not really spoken to since her mother's passing. And this was like a
Yeah.
reunion of sorts. Like, I think that there was some implications that the shows probably looked back and said, as amazingly entertaining as this was, and if it could happen to anybody, thank God it happened to Alyssa, because she's just such a fighter, a queen, as somebody who would still stand tall in her stature and everything. I just, but there's a
Yeah.
part of me that kind of wonders if they said, you know what, I think we're missing the point of bringing families together on a show that is turned into kind of a beacon for mainstream, quote unquote, queer representation. And
Yeah.
so I think the reason why we haven't seen it that much is because of that. Like, do you actually send people home or not in front of their loved ones? Especially when every single one of these pairs, we learn a lot about maybe what some of the struggles were growing up, or some of these beautiful roses. There's roses and thorns to every relationship that we see on the screen.
Mhm.
Um, before
I,
we get it, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, like it's so interesting to me because we get to see, like, on Survivor, there's, you know, towards the end of the season, there's a loved ones visit all the time. You know, and
Well, except in
if you
Modern Survivor.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And if you win the challenge, then you get to go someplace with your loved one, and maybe you can choose one of your competitors to tag along with their loved one. But at the end of the day, the loved ones still will go,
Yeah.
right? You don't ever see the loved ones at tribal council. I feel like that's
Could
kind of
you
brutal.
imagine that? I actually, Survivor, Jeff, if you're paying attention, this would be such an amazing thing. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, like, honestly, because if I were a loved one and my loved one were on Survivor and I was sitting at that tribal council, the episode's getting spoiled, because, like, if you send my bitch home, first of all, the way that I would be, like, up in the, like, I'd be like, I would be interrupted. Like, Jeff would have to bring me away. Okay, but I
I think
think
that's
that
why they have all the moms and dads in this episode go to where Untucked is, because that's a separate sound stage. And so they were
right,
like, we got to get them far away just in case.
right. But to that point, it's like you bring them here and then you watch them potentially get eliminated, because there have been episodes with loved ones where they do go home. You know,
Mhm.
like you brought up the Alyssa one. I think there was another one in, was it season 12 or season? No, it was season All Stars 4, when Manila went home
Oh,
with her
yeah.
husband sitting right there, and I felt so bad for him, because he's like, then you feel like, you know, you walk away feeling like, oh my god, I cost my loved one their time on Drag Race, and it's like, come on, like, bring them here and then just keep everybody. You know, that's what I
Yeah.
just feel like. But yeah, I thought that the episode through all of that was still a lot of fun.
And I think that what's the highlight of that is actually shown in Untucked, of this episode, where you see Anya having kind of like a conversation with her father, where he does not want to say, I think you're in the bottom. And I think he's like, yeah, I don't know who else besides Jules is in the bottom. And like Anya's like, but it's an unspoken thing that they're both kind of like, I think you're in danger, girl.
Hmm.
So the only other thing that happened in this episode that we haven't really kind of touched on before we talk about the get into more detail is the mini challenge, which is the, voting on which queen is more likely to do XYZ, and you have to vote within the majority. And there was so many of the questions that were tied up, and not many clean sweeps this time. And normally I feel like when we've watched these kind of mini challenges, they're always like, oh yeah, Sasha Colby, everybody says that. Oh yeah, Mistress Isabel Brooks or Anitra or whoever,
Mm-hmm.
right? This time I felt like it was pretty interesting that there were a lot of split votes. Do you think that says anything about where the queens are this season as a top 5?
I think that it might just show like a little bit of like some of like that initial clicky type behavior that we saw at the beginning sort of still sort of like pervades a bit, because like it's like, oh, I think that this person is more likely to do this because I was spending a lot of time with this person, as opposed to I don't know if I can get a good read on this other person. So it's like I just feel like there's like, once you have like your initial first impressions, as they always say, like first impressions they mean a lot because
Yeah.
they can persist. So yeah, I don't think I was too surprised by the split nature of it. But most of them seemed pretty spot on for me.
Yeah, I think from what I could tell of the queens, not knowing them in the way that they all know each other in the workroom, I felt like there weren't too many surprising votes or answers. And I can't tell you how much I loved Onya and Jules being next to each other and saying that they wanted each other to either go home or whatever the one was. And you hear Onya go, bitch, like that to Jules. And then RuPaul goes, and Onya also said Jules. And then Jules goes, bitch, back to her. They just start laughing. Like, I feel like this was the first time I've seen people not have feelings somewhat bruised, not hurt, but bruised a little bit. Sometimes I feel like, I think everybody expected, or Jules even expected to have her name come up for who's going to go home next. And she had Suzie's. And I thought that was interesting because last week they were the two that we all brought up as we think could be the most likely to go home this week. But with all of that said, let's get into all of the queens and their parents for this family resemblance run right now. I also think we need to say straight up, this is always going to be the challenge that is just whatever the judges are saying because they want to give somebody a win.
Yep.
Because the number one thing they said for Lexi Love and her mother was, yeah, you guys looked more like friends than like parent daughter. And I would like to know, what are you talking about when it comes to these two? What did you think about Lexi? And I, what, I don't have all of the parents' names, like their drag names, after this, but I can't remember. Didn't they say like it was something else?
I'll see if I can grab them.
Yeah.
In terms of the look, the look itself was like whatever to me, because I feel like we've seen this type of look on Lexi many times. She looks fabulous in it, and she knows what works for her. So great for her. And I think that she replicated it pretty well on her mom.
Yeah.
So yeah, on that front, I was fine with it. It just didn't like wow me in the way that I wanted it to. But I think what really sold it was her mom. Her mom really came in. And like, look, a lot of the fans they had words for Lexi's mom, because Lexi hasn't been shy about her mom not necessarily being the best at all times. There was a moment where she'd thrown her out. And I liked this sort of representation, because you have sort of like the relationship sort of like ran the gamut. It was like people that were like consider their parents their best friends, those that sort of like always wanted a better relationship but couldn't because of other circumstances, those that didn't always have the best relationship and they're working on it, or those that like have a relationship that feels stunted in some ways. Like I felt like I saw myself in each and every single one of these, and I just love that. Lexi's mom's name is Tammy. Her drag name is Mimi Lovely.
Mimi Lovely. I knew it was something lovely, and I wanted to say Lucy Lovely, and I don't know why. But I'm happy that I did not say that. So
yeah, but I liked the look, and I liked, but more so, I think I appreciated the narrative, because she had a moment with RuPaul during the work through. She was like, "Look, I wasn't always the best. I made a few mistakes, but I'm here now, and I just love my daughter, and I just want the best for her." And the fact that Lexi was gagging so much over being called she and her, like,
and
to me, that's like, and Lexi's like, there you go, like to those of you that just refuse to step out of your box and understand what it means for someone that is trans or of a different identity than you, how validating it is for someone to just accept you as you are, especially if you're the parent. Because, like, you know, for me, being a queer person, like, there's a lot of like worry about being accepted by people and strangers, and am I going to be judged? Am I going to be shunned? Like, every time I step into a new space, like, are they going to accept me for who I am, or do I have to shrink myself? All that stuff, all those things run through my mind. But the minute I sort of like came out to my parents, it was almost as if nobody could tell me shit, because when they accepted me, I was like, all right, I'm good. And of
Then
course,
who
I'm still going to have
cares?
those struggles,
Who
but like,
cares who else, you know? Yeah.
it's so validating for the people that support you and know you and love you to accept you as you are, because that it's like, it's kind of like armor. You can walk through the world knowing that no matter what, even if you are shunned someplace, you have someplace else to go. So
you always I'm very, very blessed and privileged and lucky in that I've always had parents that said you can always come home. Something happens in your life, you can always come home. You get thrown out of your apartment, you can always come home. And I, just kind of a brief aside, I had my parents thought I was a lesbian for like most of my teenage and early adult life. And I didn't know that, actually. It kind of came out at a family party where my brother looked at me and went, whatever I said some stupid comment or whatever. And he looked at me and went, that's my mom and dad think you're a lesbian. And I went, they do? And he goes, yeah. And I go, oh, I'm not. I might be bi, but I'm not a lesbian. And he went, okay. And so I went into the other room and I said, Dad, do you think I'm a lesbian? And he went, yeah. And I went, oh, I'm not. And he went, okay. And like, I realized in that moment how I felt like, oh my gosh, it's so lovely to have parents who loved and support, and all of a sudden 10 years of conversations like came into focus. Like all of a sudden, all the times my parents were like, you could bring whoever you want that makes you happy home and we would love you. And I thought they meant like, if somebody's like a little different or something. I didn't know that they meant like, oh, you could bring another woman home, which is always encouraging and such to hear. But that is not the reality for a lot of people. And I would actually argue that Lexi's mother probably was the most powerful person to have on this show today, because you have somebody who has said, yeah, I made a lot of mistakes. I pushed her away, but there's always been an undercurrent of love. And we have worked really hard to come to understandings and to see her have that growth of this ability for her to say she, her, call her Lexi, tell her that she's her daughter, like things like that are just so healing and important. And seeing that all on television as somebody who was not the perfect parent to a queer child, and trying and doing so on national television and admitting that they're wrong on national television, that to me is like so much more powerful than I shouldn't say that, but in addition to having the parents like Sam's parent, who, mom, who was like at the club all the time and is like the mother to all the queens in the area, that is incredibly powerful to me. But I think one of the issues that we have in society, let alone especially when it comes to far right wing fascist powers trying to, quite frankly, make and vilify trans people and queer people or people of color or whatever, immigrants, all these people of marginalized identities. When you have somebody who participated in that hate, even to their own child, come out on national television and say, I was wrong and I'm doing better and we're working on this. And you also have Lexi admittedly talking about being on meth at one point in this episode, and how she has this point of clarity where she realizes that Suzie represents who she thought she might have turned into had it not been for getting kicked out of being the house or being on drugs or whatever. And I think that's probably why she has some undercurrents of feelings. Like there's things about Lexi that she's realizing, like, wow, there's a lot of who I am that's shaped by my experiences. And there's a lot that her mom is realizing, wow, there's a lot of who she is that's shaped by my treatment of her in the past. And that's going to be different moving forward. That to me, and that admitting of being wrong or changing and going into a direction that is healthy and right, I think is so powerful. And I wish people would see that and say, it's okay to admit when you're wrong. It's
Yeah.
okay to try to rebuild bridges, and go from there. I think that's so important.
Yeah, for sure. Because like it's especially like for the mom's like other or parents' points of view, like it's hard for them too, and it's like
Yeah.
a lot of people, they don't want to hear that side of it. It's sort of like, oh, boo hoo, like I'm the one that's getting sent to these camps, and I'm the one that's being picked on every day, which is valid, which is fair, which is true. But it's also like there's two people that have to come to the table, right? And one of
Yeah.
them is bringing something of themselves that they're trying to figure out, and they just want the support of the people that are supposed to support them. The other is like, this is not what I had planned. This is not, I don't know how to handle this. I've never had to handle this before. This is new to me. Like, what do I do? Like, how do I, it's there's a lot of complex emotions. And I think that I don't know. I just really enjoyed seeing it because, there are things in my life where I'm like, I feel like I'm not as confident as I could be, or like I feel like I'm behind against like my straight counterparts because this, that, and the third. And like my first inclination when I was younger was to like blame my upbringing and blame my parents, blame my grandparents, blame the people that were supposed to be there for me that didn't show up for me in ways that I wanted them to.
Yeah.
And then at some point I'm like, they did the best they could. And I'm good. I'm like, I'm happy for the most part. I'm healthy. I'm generally successful. Like I'm able to live on my own. Like I'm able to take care of myself. I have friends. Like that's good, Like, and I didn't do that on my own. So you just have to meet people where they are, and it's not always the best. It's not always comfortable, but that's all you really can do.
I think that that's such a powerful thing to hear. And for anybody at home who feels, especially like you're behind other people, especially if you're a queer person who feels like you're behind the straight counterparts. Number one, why would you want to settle for what the straights are going for? Number one. Well, let's just keep it there,
Let's
right?
just start there.
But number two, I think that that's so true. Like there are people who didn't, you look at all the people who did things that were successful later in their life, or I know plenty of people who found love later in life, regardless of their identity and such. So I think that one of the biggest things that you can do is forgive those in your life who have wronged you, who did the best they could, and also not forget how they made you feel, how their inactions or actions did, so that you don't perpetuate that to whoever, if you end up being a parent or anybody else in your life. And I think those are important. To bring this back just to the looks and everything, I actually thought that this to me was one of the most interesting looks that we got to see. I am not La Roche, so I will not be talking about fashion as on his level. And I don't think that this is necessarily like the most fashion forward thing ever, but I do love the pink and the red. I love that you have a mother who is showing off body. I love that. I loved how Mimi was obsessed with the duct tape facelift in the workroom. She was like, "Oh my God." And Lexi's like, yeah, I have the power to do this, right? I loved this so much, and I just loved how she put her entire pussy into being there for her daughter and showing up. I think she looks beautiful. I think they look like mother-daughter.
I do too, yeah.
I don't know if I agreed with the judges there, but if all they wanted to say was, "Hey, I think that Sam's outfits are better constructed and different and whatever,"
just
then
say
just
that.
say that. Like, what are we talking about? What kind of friend is this? Maybe it's because her mom's wearing a pink wig, but let me tell you, the amount of women who are older and using that beautiful silver and white hair to put color in for fun, I see a lot of them nowadays. And you better believe I'm going to be that bitch someday.
Yeah.
I'm saving my colors for when I have a better base to do it with.
I'm here for it.
But I think that they deserve to be safe. When they first came out, I was like, oh my gosh, like I could see this, just knowing how makeover challenges have gone in the past. I was like, I could see this winning. Then I saw the next couple come out and I was like, okay,
Yep.
Deserves to be safe.
Yep.
Our next couple is actually going to be the challenge winner herself, Sam Star, with her mother. Sassy Star. I remember it was Sassy.
Yes.
And what's
Sassy
her
Star.
mother's real
Leslie.
name? Leslie. Okay. I thought that this was just such a beautiful relationship to see. I love that we absolutely get to see a little bit of, I feel like Sam has had the confidence of somebody who is older than she really is. And I think that between being in the bottom two last week and then having her mother here, I felt like we got to kind of see her in focus of how young she really is and how much she really depends on this support system. And not saying that that's a age thing. I mean, am 36 and I still depend on my parents on so much, but it was so powerful to see someone from the deep south of Alabama and have her mom be like, "Let me show you pictures of my son. He's a drag queen." And like, and being so out and open and being the mother for all the drag queens at the club and coming to the shows every weekend, essentially. Like, that is a level of support that you don't see in most places, let alone the deep south. And so I just want to commend Leslie for being just such a beacon of hope and love and truth in the South. And that is how you fight ignorance, is with love and brightness and your ability to share it from the mountaintops and just having complete pride in your child. And I just thought that was really, really beautiful to see.
Yeah, it was this was great. And I think the presentation of it was also what made it so great. And obviously all of them sort of had a bit of a bit that they attached to the runway. But clearly Sam is a pageant girl, and I think that even though Leslie doesn't have a daughter, like biologically, I think that she is still sort of like living this like dance mom, stage mom fantasy where it's like, my daughter is the star, but I'm also the real star. This is my show. And they really exemplified that, like pushing her off the stage, letting her mom have the big reveal. Like, it was so like, I see where she's getting it from now. Like, them in the workroom was so fun. Like, her, like, not like, it was like a bit of a humble brag, but not like in a braggadocious way, which is like, I try to see as many shows as I can. I love my son. I love Sam, and I just do what I can for the rest of the girls, and it is what it is. And you can't, there's no shame in that. Like, you're there for your child. And I just love that. I thought that this was very well done. I thought that just all the choices that they made were great. And I think they had like a very clear vision as to what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
As soon as Sam asked her mom what she wanted, she was like, "Dolly, I want big hair. I want tits.
That is a true Southern woman. That is a true American woman right there who says, I mean, let's be honest. If you want to be turned into any American icon, you choose Dolly, right? Come on.
Yep. And they made that happen. It reminded me so much of like Beyonce and Tina, like because they're also like Southern, and Beyonce is always, whenever she has the time, like whenever she has the chance, reveres her mom. Like, it just reminded me so much of that. So yeah.
I think too that what we get to see, which I think is really smart with the outfits, is that Sam, as the young, woman is in drag, is the one that's wearing pants, and that her mother we get two back-to-back moms who are showing some ass when they turn around, which is great. We're seeing mothers who are wearing these kind of corset bathing suits that are designed, and I love that so much. I loved Sam talking her mother up and saying, "Remember when you won that swimsuit competition? What was it, like 20 years ago or something like that?" She's like, "You go on that stage." 1920. In 1920 with Suzie too, tap dancing on the stage. I think that's what she said. I mean, this was I love the way that Sam talked up her mom, right? And I love that her mom came out and just owned the stage. And you can tell all that time in drag bars has made her think, man, if I were to do this, what would I do? And like you said, Aman, she came prepared. She had notes. She had, I want to do this. I want to act like this. I want you to paint me like this. I want to blah, 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 blah. And I loved that so much. I love that, like you said, you could see their dynamic. And as amazing as her mom is with like the reveal and all these other aspects of like their performance, I still think my eyes were drawn to Sam because she just has that star power where you want to check in and look at her, and I just felt like They really killed it. They were definitely the top two for me. This was not shocking. As we said last week, I was like, this is what Sam is made for, is like makeover challenges and that kind of thing. So I was really, really happy to see both of them just kill it on the runway. I loved, Sassy Star having that sassy moment on the stage. It was pretty great.
Loved it.
Let's move on to Suzie Toot, who comes out with her mother, and who we learn her mother's name is Susan, and her maiden name was Toot, and so Susie's drag name is just a complete love letter to her mother.
Yeah, and I think that that's so special and so powerful because I think I related the most to Suzie here because I'm also in a similar position where like I love my mom to death, like I'm always gonna love my mom, but we don't necessarily have that like very, very, but we don't have what Sam and her mom have.
Right.
And that's okay. Like it's not, not every relationship is like that. Every relationship is different. As long as the love is still there, that's what matters the most. And you can tell that the love is still there. Obviously in the namesake, obviously in like just how much she wanted her mom to be comfortable, and she was like very, very catering. But you could tell that also, and again, it's not anyone's fault, it just is what it is. You can tell that sort of like stunted the amount that she was able to do or how hard she could go because she was sort of focused on her mother's energy, which is obviously respectful and lovely and awesome. When you put it in the context of the game of Drag Race, it's a hindrance, but again, it is what it is. I think that she did as good as she could. I think that this look within itself, we've seen it a bit too many times. When she said that she was going to make them a cartoon and sort of like come off the page or come off the screen, I was like, okay, can you do the black and white and then like gradually make it color? Because I feel like that's an interesting play on what you've already done. And it can kind of show like the lineage, or like maybe your mom is black and white and she
that's what I thought colored. They were gonna do.
Like slowly as she comes down, she gets into color, and then you are like the full color. Like that would have been like a very cerebral way to go about doing it. But I think that obviously her mom, she did make comments about like not knowing how much energy she was going to have. So like I don't, I'm not going to comment on her health, but it did feel as though maybe she's a little limited in what she can do physically right now. So well, all things taken into consideration, I think that she did as best as she could. I just think that the execution of cartoon coming off the page could have been done a little better.
It was just, I loved how the outfits were done. They were done really simplistically, but with this idea that is pretty easy. So like the long overalls are the ones that are striped on Suzie, but her mother has it as like the big top with the poofy sleeves, right? I'm obsessed with how poofy her mom's sleeves are with those tiny black gloves, because it just emphasizes how big those sleeves must be on such a slight woman. And I loved it so much. I loved that the black skirt contrasts with Suzie's black top, the black and the white scarves that they're wearing, the mouse ears and such. But I think the thing that I just found the most endearing about this was her mother looking at Suzie and copying her over and over. Was just, to me, I was like, this is, she's trying and she's doing this for Suzie. And like, I don't know, that to me, more so than having it all down pat and all that kind of stuff, just this idea of like, you can tell she's nervous and that she wants to do what she can for Suzie, and she's doing it. And I just thought that was really lovely and cute. Law says this is the most fashion forward and I have to imagine that he meant more of Suzie's outfit, but I mean, I think that they're both really gorgeous. I genuinely felt like this was a safe look and everything. So I agreed with their placement here. And I think that I think it was important to have Suzie's storyline, like you're saying, this idea that I have a parent who's showing up for me, but my relationship isn't necessarily the closest. And being able to be so thankful and grateful for that, and the gift that is, that their parent is showing up, but
Yeah.
also having the very valid thing of, hey, I look around and I see like, inside jokes and love and stories and consistency and those kind of things. And I don't necessarily have that. And that makes me a little sad. And you also see the other girls notice that too with Suzie and her mom. And that, I think, was it Lexi? I think said something like, I want to give her a little bit more like leeway.
Yeah.
And part of that was because Lexi was realizing, oh, Suzie kind of represents the me that I probably would have liked to have done or whatever.
I'm loving the growth, Lexi. Fight your demons,
Yes.
girl. Fight them.
Yes, slay them. All right. The next queen is Jules Sparkles, whose father comes out and comes in with, the workroom with a "Hey, queen," which is apparently how Jules and him always greet each other, which is so cute to
I
me.
know.
And Jules being, I think, one of the youngest, if not the youngest, too, I think is really showcased here too, with like having this father come. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love women who come like mothers and are put into feminine outfits they would never wear. Like when my mom has watched Drag Race, she's openly says like, but this isn't how women dress. Like, I don't get it, like that kind of thing. And I have to kind of be like, yeah, it's using this as entertainment because women don't dress like this, but this is our idea of femininity, right? I think it is so much more powerful when the fathers come, because this is not in a lot of people's wheelhouses who are of a more masculine gender.
Yeah. I think that they were just it was so sweet. Just the two of them. Just I totally lived. I lived. Um but the looks,
So
Jules.
bad.
I want Jules to win so bad, but she's falling so behind. I thought that maybe just based off of the edit and all of the love that they have for one another, I was like, oh, they're pumping us up. They're gonna eat this up. Like this is Jules' second win. She's gonna be right there alongside her sisters. Like she's gonna have some time for the crown. And I agree with the guest judge. I was waiting for the reveal. I mean, they had it. Like your dad was around the workroom, like shaking those titties. I was waiting for you to rip that off.
Thank you.
Like, bam, 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 and it never happened. I don't know what happened. I don't know if maybe like I feel like something had to have happened, because I just feel like I don't know. I just feel like there's no way that you could think that just wearing a non-form fitting snow coat was going to do the trick. Like, it's cute. You guys look cute. You do. But it's not enough, especially if you're looking at what your sisters got going on. So like a piece of me wants to believe that maybe like she had to rearrange something, maybe something popped, maybe something snapped, maybe the dad couldn't do something, and it just happened this way.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Shit happens. But I just really, really, really wanted a reveal. I really wanted something better from Jules, because I just really enjoy Jules. I really do.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you too. And I think I was convinced the coats were going to reveal into like a furry bikini of what the other person was wearing. So like if you're wearing like the purple dress or like a coat, that it would actually end up being like a monochrome look underneath, where like then like you're wearing like a fur bikini top that is blue, so that you end up being monochrome. So I thought this idea was just going to be like they come out wearing each other's colors on the coat, and then they reveal to being monochrome themselves. And I thought that would have been like really genius. It would have been cool. I still probably would have felt like it was pretty basic, but at least there would have been a reveal. There would have been something there. And I think that Jules's father pretty much proved that he was down to do whatever. So I don't think that would have necessarily been the issue, but we'll have to wait and see until Jules can actually talk about whatever
Yeah, I
happened
want to
down.
know, because she has a reveal under there. So
Yeah.
like, what's going on with him? Like, does he not
Yeah.
have one? Like, it just feels, something feels off. It just feels weird to me.
And I think it's important also to talk about, this is also a family that has gone through various different kinds of trauma, and not even related to queer identities or anything. But we hear that Jules's brother was killed a couple years ago in a car accident.
Yeah.
We know that Jules had a tumor. Was it on her spine, if I remember correctly? Like This is a family that has gone through a lot, and clearly over the past couple of years has been really trying to figure out how to move forward as a family of three. And I think that that is really, really like that's a reality that so many families have to go through that is just absolutely heartbreaking. How do
Ugh,
you
can't
move
even imagine that.
forward, you know?
Ugh, this gives me
And
chills.
exactly, you know, I am moments away from welcoming my first niece into the world. Like, she's due in 2 days. We don't know when she's
Oh
going to
my
come, which is
gosh.
so exciting. But I was like weeping because I just had this moment of like, oh my gosh, like my brother or my sister-in-law are going to always have that worry, like what happens if I lose my child, you know,
Yeah,
something like that. And I can't even imagine what that's like for parents, especially of younger people, right? People who
yeah,
haven't really explored their individuality as an adult. And so hearing that story and seeing that Jules has this pressure to feel like I need to do well, not just in this challenge, but in this competition, because maybe that will help heal some wounds. I completely understand that for sure. But I
mhm,
also think that that is a mindset that could be so harmful too, because you
yeah.
have this
There's so much pressure.
unrealistic pressure that you know, winning the competition, and she knows this, isn't going to bring back her brother, but it's not going to be the thing that fills in that gap, right? It's going to be something that they can all come together and celebrate, which is wonderful. And I really hope
Yeah,
that that kind of works for her. But this having her father there is proof enough that she doesn't need to win the competition for there to be a celebration of her, her talents, her family, her, and she's openly talking about how she is able to do this and be at this level because of her parents' support. So I think that this was probably incredibly helpful for both of them and hopefully their mother too, to really feel like this is a victory lap of celebration of like,
exactly.
you know, of the support that they have.
You got on the show, you made it this far, your dad is on the show with you, your dad is walking the runway on RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, that is a win within itself, like, no ifs, ands, or buts, no, like, cliches and platitudes of it all. That is a win.
Yeah.
That is
And
a
I
win.
loved that they talked about how Jules put him and everybody else in the family in drag during COVID. It just reminded me, like, I stayed with my family, with my parents at their house and my brother and my sister-in-law. And we ended up, because we're a family of educators and people who just like learning, that we just looked at each other and went, every day, one of us is in charge of teaching something, not every day, sorry, every week somebody's in charge of teaching us. So like my mom taught us how to make her apple pie from scratch, right? Like my brother taught
Ooh,
us how to do like basic guitar stuff, right? Like, so we
oh,
were
I
just
love
trying to
that.
take everything that we like individually have felt like we really love and try to share it with each other. And it just brought me back hearing Jules saying that, you know, oh yeah, put us all in drag during quarantine. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like I can identify with that. And that's
The good old-fashioned pandemic days.
yeah. Oh God. Oh, both so scarring and also just like there is a little bit that I sometimes go, you know what, those were actually some like
Yeah, I
I
was like, sometimes I was like, I would not mind the
I know, a
lockdown.
little lockdown nowadays. I'll take it. No, I'm just kidding. Please don't have millions of people dying.
Yes, besides that, I want the lockdown without the death.
Yeah. What I guess I want is a staycation.
A snow day. I want a massive snow day where we're all just snowed in.
Okay, we're snowed in for a month. That's what we're asking for. Everybody collectively just have a month off. Any other thoughts on Jules and her father?
No, I thought that they you know, it was cute and I just loved the both of them.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. And last but not least, we do have Onya Nurve with her father. What was the name that they ended up Nunya
Uh
Business?
yeah, none of your business.
Okay, first of all, the evolution of all the names was killing me. So as we
Yeah.
learn, Anya's father spent a significant time in her childhood in prison for robbing 5 banks.
5 banks.
And what
Damn.
did he come up with? Something like Rob,
Roberta
Rob
Roberta Banks.
Roberta Bank. I
I
was
believe they should
like,
have went with that. I think
I
that's a
thought
slam
so
dunk right there.
too. I mean, don't get me wrong, Nanya Business is really good too. Robert.
Rub her to Banks.
I have to say, Aman, I felt like this was also one of the most powerful duos that we got to see because, again, this is a father who's not trying to make up for lost time, so to say, but is really intentionally trying to show that, hey, my kids never gave up on me and I'm never going to give up on them. And I want to give back to Onya and her brother as best as I can. And I want to show up. And showing up meant not just being somebody who, like, let's also be honest, I'm making a very sweeping generalization here. I understand this, but a lot of men who have served prison time often feel like they have to be the most masculine of masculine men, right? And to have somebody then who has served that time come on Drag Race, get into drag, shave his beard, which he definitely did not want to do, but did all of this for Onya, I think is just such a love letter to what parents who want children and love their children would do. They would go to the ends of the earth to make them happy and do these kind of things, right? And that's not every single parent. I understand that, but this was something that I knew had to have been completely out of his wheelhouse. But then you see him strutting around with them titties in the workroom, bouncing them up and down, and I'm like, you know what? This is further proving my point, which is that everybody wants titties, and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Because I love just holding them. It's a security thing, and so I feel like everybody should just, we should just be mail ordering breastplates to all the men of the world to say, here you go, have your own little security and have some fun, jump around. You just have the privilege to take it off at the end of the day.
Yeah, this was very heartwarming to me. Just the whole nine. Like, first of all, I mean, and I do not condone robbing banks. Okay.
I do. No, I'm just kidding.
But when I heard that he robbed 5 banks, I was like, oh, that's a man. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, Law Roach. Sitting here.
Yeah, Law Roach was crazy. Law Roach really was just like, I was like, okay. Like
I was here for it. And I love Anya's father was eating that shit up. And that's what I love the most about it is that that is a secure effing man right there.
Yes.
That is a secure man who knows who he is in his masculinity, whole 9 yards. I know a lot of guys that if a man were to hit on him that way, would not be happy.
Yep. The whole
and hitting on him out of drag, not hitting on him in drag.
Yep. So yeah, I thought that it was, their story was just very, very heartwarming, and I think it's such an interesting evolution, especially when it comes to Black men that are gay, because like the homophobia is like, whoa, it's a special breed in the Black community. So I just feel like this was like such an interesting through line, because I remember back during the makeover challenge in season 6, I think, when Jocelyn Fox got paired up with that Black gentleman. I think they ended up removing that episode, right? Like they were like, because they got into like some legal issues with that, and he ended up throwing up on stage because he was that uncomfortable with being in drag, and he was so afraid of what everyone was going to think when the episode aired. And now you fast forward all the way to this, I'm like, okay, we're making progress here. Like things are changing, and it's just seeing Ani get so emotional and knowing that how much love that there is, and that he, I love that he was like, my sons never they never turned their backs on me, so I cannot do that to them. And if that means that I need to come on national TV and wear some tits and wear some heels and wear a dress, I'm gonna do it. And he did it, and he looks good. His walk wasn't the best, but that's fine. But
his walk was mine in drag, and that's not a compliment. But the other thing about this that I loved him on was the fact that Anya was like, said something about like, have you ever, or RuPaul asked him, have you ever felt fabulous? And he was like, that is one of the few things in my life I've never felt. Cut to them being on stage, and they're like, how do you feel? And he said, fierce.
Yes, fierce. Yes.
And Anya said, he just learned that word today. I love that he just owned it. That is how you do this. Drag is honestly, at the end of the day, is an expression of bravery. It's an expression of not being afraid to look different, look good in a different capacity, look bad in a different capacity, to just be and to just do something that breaks all of the norms that you are normally accustomed to for you and your perspective on life. And that is bravery at the end of the day. And like you said, I mean, I think especially as a straight Black man who is coming up on the stage and doing this, like, you're right, this is 11 years past the Jocelyn Fox of it all. And not Jocelyn Fox, I'm sorry, that was not to be about Jocelyn and more about the makeover partner.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I would love to see Jocelyn on an All Stars, because I just feel like she's so cute, and I would love to see her again.
She hasn't come back.
I know, she's still working. I see her. Anyway, I thought that the outfits were, I liked her father's outfit in theory much better than hers. I don't like the wigs with them.
Yeah.
I just kind of generally felt like the concept, just often like what we say with Onya, is that the concept is there, but not always the execution, right?
Yeah.
And she's, had to really understand and do drag on her own. There's not really a large community in Ohio, and there's not like this big drag family that she comes from. And she's, I understand all of that. And she's just so freaking charismatic and wonderful. This to me was an example. I was like, as soon as it came out, I went, I think that they're going to be in the bottom.
Yeah, it's just a bit too discordant. The color choices are just, it's, it just like I'm like repulsed. I just don't like what's going on with these colors and some of these pastels and mixed with darks, and but I think, what's her name again? Not, I was about to say Roberta Banks.
Roberta Banks on None Your Business.
None Your Business. I think that she looks beautiful, and I definitely do see a bit of a resemblance. I don't know how much of that is helped by the fact that is his damn daddy.
Yeah, no, seriously.
But yeah, I do see in the paint. I see it. Like I can understand. I can see the through line there, but I just think that the fashion of it all was a miss here for sure.
I agree. Well, Onya and Jules find themselves in the bottom two, lip syncing to One Thing by Amory. I as soon as the song started playing, I went, "Oh, okay! I haven't heard this song in a hot moment." I
was kind of surprised this is the first time we've heard it on Drag Race.
I know. That's what I thought. I thought they both lip sync really well, but I'm going to be honest. If there was a winner, I thought Jules.
Yep.
Won.
Yep. I think so too. I think she drew my eye a bit more. Now Onya did, have her little moment where she kicked the wig. That's like a gag.
She punted that shit.
She the guest judge was like, "Oh!" Like it was crazy. So that was one little moment, but as a whole, I think Jules definitely edged her out a bit there. I just feel like her movements were just much more into the song, but you could tell that both of them grew up with this damn song and love this song. This is allegedly the song that your average Beyonce hater will say she stole Amory's sound, because this song came out and then Crazy in Love came out, and it was the same sort of upbeat tempo drum type mix, and everyone's
and Amory does have there is a tone to her voice that sounds very Beyonce.
A lot of people thought that this was Beyonce's song, so I totally get it. And how much of that is true, I don't know. I wasn't studying the music industry back when I was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know, but anyway.
Back when the show started, when I was 5, in the words of Lydia Collins.
I haven't sneaking in Beyonce, which is I don't even know why. But yeah, I thought that they both did a great job. I thought that I knew what was going to happen, because obviously even if Onya loses, she's not going to go home. There's no way you send Onya Nurve home.
I'm not going to lie. I did have a moment of being very, very nervous, because cut to her in the very beginning of this episode saying, just because I have 4 wins doesn't mean that I'm the front runner. Wins are important to get to the finale, but that doesn't mean that you're winning the whole competition.
That is true.
All it takes is one bad week. I just sat there, and when she landed in the bottom and I saw that Jules was outperforming her, because Jules was doing this very, I don't want to say seriously, but she was doing it in the feeling of the song. And Onya was doing more campy, which is fine. And that's a good way
Yeah.
to do it. She did fine with it. She was doing great, but Jules was more captivating to watch. And I just was like, oh my God, are they really about to send her home?
Mm-hmm.
And when it ended up being a double Shantae, I was really happy that they did that. I do think that this is the 5 that deserve to move forward. Plus, I think that, like we said in the beginning, eliminating anybody with their family there is probably the best and the worst case scenario. Best because you have somebody in your immediate family who knows what happened, was there to live through it, and can like support you in a way that nobody else can ever support anybody else who gets eliminated from Drag Race in that capacity. But on the other hand, like imagine, the way that Anya's father would feel, like if she had gone home, or Jules's
Yeah.
father would feel.
Yeah.
So, and
Pass
I
that
do,
trauma on to the parents.
yeah, absolutely. That said, next week we get that they're going to be, is, I can't remember, like, it's kind of like applying for RDR Live in Vegas, I think. So you're going to have like various different aspects of this challenge. There's going
Yeah.
to be an interview with Latrice Royale, which I'm like, yes, sign me up. But the biggest part about next week challenge is RuPaul says at least one person could be going home, which when we've had 3 episodes where nobody has gone home this season, makes me wonder, are we about to see a final 2 going into the finale? Or are we going to see a final 3 or a final 4? What do you think, Aman?
I think a final 3 makes the most sense for the finale. It's a nice number. It's what they used to do back in the day. And I think it helps you fill out the finale episode itself when there are more contestants.
Mm-hmm.
And him saying at least one of you is going to go home, it makes me feel like it's definitely 2 people going. So yeah,
feel
2
like,
people go.
yeah.
Episode 14, episode 15 is the reunion. Episode 16 is the finale with the final 3.
See, I could also see it being at least one person goes home, and I would imagine I could see a world where only one person goes after all of that, because people do so well that it's hard to like cut anybody. I could see a world where they say, nope, we're going to make this a top 3 or a top 2.
If
And
that's the case, Jules, you need to win next week. You have to win.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. You're going to have to win, Jules, in order to stay. Who else do you think is in danger? Say that there's 2 people who are eliminated next week, who do you think are the top 3, and who do you want to be the top 3?
I would say Onya, Sam, and I can't choose between Suzie and
Lexi.
And Lexi. I feel like it'll probably be Suzie. So yeah, that's who I think will be in the top 3. Who I would like to be in the top 3, obviously, is Suzie, Onya, and Jules.
I think the top 3 are the same. I think it's going to be Onya, Sam, and Suzie. Who I would like to see in the top 3 would be Lexi, Onya, and Sam.
Yeah.
I love the other 2, but I just generally feel like there's just something about those 3 that are so different from each other. And Suzie is also very different from everybody, and I get that, and she's incredibly talented. So I don't know. This is a tough one, and I kind of love that it's so tough, because it makes it more interesting at the end here.
I mean, there's always a possibility that Lexi could swing through and just like win the last challenge, because that'll bring her up to what, 3?
3. And to be fair, I just also like, we're getting to the point right now, which will be much more about performance and how you perform. And clearly Lexi's a good lip syncer and like performer, like dance wise, and she knows how to move her body. She obviously has a lot of charisma. Sam has the polish, the look, the humor, all this kind of stuff. Onya has like the best personality and like stage presence I've seen in a long, long time. And she spins gold out of nothing, right?
Yeah.
Jules has this incredible innate talent, has a real eye for drag and for what she's doing, and is so good at such a young age. And Suzie just is completely like, the theater person who is such an archetype that is so good on this show. You think of the
Mhm.
Jinx Monsoons and the Ben de la Cremes, and that is, I see Suzie reaching that echelon not too far off in her career, right? So I really think that this is a very exciting top 5. And I can't wait to see how this turns out.
I know. I'm excited. I think ultimately we're sort of marching to the end a little bit, but we also kind of thought that a little bit with Saphira last year,
Yeah.
and she had 4 wins and she didn't win because what did Vimpy only
Nymphia.
had 3, or did she also have 4? I can't remember.
I honestly can't remember.
Regardless, we all thought that Saphira was going to take it, and then Nymphia
Yeah.
took it. So like, it's not 100% that Onya takes it. Sam
Right.
could get one last win because now she's up to 3. She could get, if she wins next week, she's tied. So
Boy, it'd be really interesting if we get Sam winning, because I think that would be the third time, the third family that 2 people in the family have won. So Aquaria's drag mother is Sharon, even though we
okay.
don't like Sharon Needles anymore. Putting that out there. We had Willow Pill and Evie Oddly.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And now if Sam were to win, Sam and Trinity. And so I think that would be really fascinating. But I don't know. I'm genuinely just excited to see what we get to see, and whoever wins, I think will be more than deserving of it. So
yeah.
Any last thoughts on this episode, Aman?
That's it for me.
Great. Same here. Aman, tell us what you're up to and where people can find you.
You can follow me everywhere at Aman Adwin. You can check out me and Matt Logoria's podcast, The Diary Room, a Big Brother bracket, where we have been whittling down all of these North American Big Brother players, spinoffs included, to figure out who is the best Big Brother player of all time. We have just reached the halfway point of round 1. Okay,
Oh my
so
gosh.
we've still got a long way to go. But yeah, there'll be another episode this Tuesday, so check that out.
Excellent. And you can check me out at AugustaWind11 on my Instagram, or at Beth-Dixon on Blue Sky. Feel free to leave your comments and reviews on both the YouTube page as well as Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Please feel free, especially with the beginning of the month coming through, to consider becoming a patron of RHAP. This is a great time to join in the very beginning of the month. And there's always a lot going on for our patrons, especially if you like all areas of reality television. Thank you so much to the team behind the scenes at RHAP, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.